Hi, I'm Haden,
And I'm Tim.
and today we're going to be putting a standard table together with an equalizer slide. What we have here is one of our tops. We've got a 36-inch opening. We've got three 12-inch leaves, so that's 36 inches. And a lot of times, most of the time for this application, you'd use just a standard slide with no equalizers on it. But this table is so big, we wanted to have the equalizers on it as well.
What we've actually done is created a fifth leg support for the center. That'll take a little bit of the weight out of the center of it. But with that leg, we're going to go ahead and use the equalizer slide.
So we have the 11-11 legs today. We have our skirting set that we've already cut. We've cut it up for the leaves, the table. We have the, as Tim mentioned, the 11-11 with the what we call the bridge to go underneath the slide to add support. And the slide itself, this slide is a 9063. It's a new slide. It's 50 inches long. It's a 3-section slide, and it's got that equalizer in it. So that's what we'll be doing today.
Okay, so Hayden, this tabletop came with a thumbnail route and hard maple. What I've decided to do is go ahead and put just an 1/8 inch round over on my seams here.
Okay.
What that does is just gives a little bit of relief. It still looks good and continuous when it's together, but if I'm off just the least little bit, I'll never know it. I can't feel it at all, and just kind of dresses that edge up. And so I've routed that. So these are the alignment pins right here, and one way that you can do this to keep everything real accurate, keep your holes centered and everything, is to just buy a self-centering doweling jig. This is a little bit higher end one. Actually, you can get these fairly cheap online, and what that allows you to do is just make your lines where you want these, and as you tighten this down, you just snug that up on the edge of your table there, get it centered on your line, and just gives you a guide there, that much of a guide that you can keep that bit nice and centered, perfectly straight. Nice. Just mark your bit for your depth and stuff, or use a depth guide, and just gives you something real accurate and nice. So, all right, let's move on. We're gonna go ahead and flip our tabletops over, and we're gonna go ahead and get started on the bottom here, and work with our skirt set.
All right.
Yep.
Oh! I gotta go.
Okay, so what I'm doing here is, before I get started on all of this, I'm just going to dry fit all of my parts on my skirting set. I'm going to take my legs and my skirting, and just tap those all together. We try and give you a real snug fit here. A snug fit is nice and good. It's tight, but it's good to just dry fit and just double check everything before you go with glue or screws or anything else, before you commit yourself, and that way if anything is off just a little bit, you can grab your finish sander, touch things up, get everything just aligned just like it needs to be, and then when we go to actually assemble, everything is quick and easy. So that's what I'm doing right now. In this process, I'm also finding out exactly how wide I am from outside of skirt to outside of skirt. And this is important because what I want to do is get this perfectly centered on my tabletop. So I'm going to measure outside to outside here, and then figure out exactly where my lines need to be on my tabletop to get that centered. So let's work through all that, and we'll get underway here. So we'll dry fit our other half here, kind of. So It'll be all right. Okay, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's just go ahead and tap all of our parts together here. I'm just double checking these joints here. If it happens to be off just a little bit one way or the other, we can always take a finish sander and just touch that tenon up. See right there, I'm off just a tiny bit, so I'm just gonna take a little bit off of the top of that. You know, one thing about wood is if it's a little bit too snug or a little bit too big, you can always take a little bit off. If it's the other way, you're in trouble. So, all right, let's get our corner blocks set in here. And all right, let me show you something, just a little bit of a trick here with getting this centered, and talk to you about that for just a second. Once I figure what my difference is, I can just measure that out and mark it. Take a framing square, okay, to get some straight lines. Or what I actually did, I made some real simple jigs just out of scrap Luan, and so I'm gonna lay those on and just draw my lines here, and that'll give me something real positive that I can just look at and just set these when I'm putting my screws in, and that'll keep everything right where it needs to be. What I've done, I've created some little jigs here, and this will just keep me going. I'm just gonna draw these lines here. And there we go. Screws and... Okay, now that I've got my lines drawn, I'm gonna just move those skirting sets into place. What I'm going to do is come back away from this center line just a little bit. And the reasoning there is that if this tabletop were to shrink just a little bit over time, I would still have a little bit to play with, and I wouldn't be in jeopardy of these skirting pieces hitting each other. Okay, now that gap is not going to look bad or anything like that. When the table is completely done, when it's finished and everything, you won't even hardly notice that. But it just gives us a little bit of safety there. And so we're just going to work our way the whole way around this. Get all of our screws in. Now, I'm lining these skirting sets up with the lines that I've made. Really, my legs are kind of free floating right now. When I get there, I'm going to run my 2.5-inch screws in to my legs, okay, and that'll hold them sturdy. And then, of course, when we get our corner block put in, and then put those screws in, that'll hold everything really well, okay. So that's where we're going. Okay, so we're getting ready to put our skirting and our legs and our corner blocks all together. We're going to use the 1.25-inch panhead screw for the skirting and for the corner blocks. We're going to use the 2.5-inch screw for the skirting and the leg. Okay, where the mortise and tenon joint is. And that's really all there is to it. Once we get our corner blocks on, I'll show you how to put the washer and the nut on there and tighten that down, and you'll have a really sturdy table. Okay, we're ready to put our washers and our nuts onto our corner blocks, and you could use a ratchet and a socket. You could use a box wrench. I've just got a socket on my drill there, just start those by hand and make sure that you're not going to get it cross-threaded. Okay, and then just tighten them down, and we'll have our table base just about done. Okay, so we're getting ready to put our part number 9063 table slides on here, and if you remember, we used our jig and we drew our line here, and that line is parallel with the outside edge. And I've already figured to get these centered, but all I'm doing right now is just going by that one line, okay? And I want to get right on that thing, and then of course center this way in our opening, okay? And after I get this one set, I'm going to just take a piece of Luan, just a scrap piece of plywood that I've figured to be the right width, and set it down in here, and then set this one based on that. That makes sure that everything is perfectly parallel. If you don't get these really close to being parallel, you can have some binding issues and things like that. So just to avoid that, I always use a piece of plywood there, just to make sure. Okay. Okay. Now just keep in mind a couple things here. There's no real set width that these have to be apart. I've got a left and a right, and they'll come stamped. One is blue and one is red. Okay, when you buy them from us. What I want to keep in mind is what all I want to accomplish inside the table. You know, if I'm going to use some skirting brackets here, which I would like to do that. Just adds a little bit of support right here to the center, and we'll look at those in just a minute. That's going to take a little bit of space. You know, if you want to use table alignment locks, which I love, that it's a great idea. You know, you need to leave a little bit of space for those. Okay, so just some things to keep in mind. Technically speaking, the further these are apart from each other, the more sturdy your table will be. So you have to just kind of plan ahead and see what all you want to include in your table there. Okay, I'm lined up on my line here, and I'm centered, and the last thing I'm going to do right before I put my screws in this slide is open that slide just a little bit. Probably a 1/4 inch total is all I need. The reason being, here again, goes back to just in case these tabletops were to shrink a little bit, I'd have a little bit of play there. Okay, we don't want to have a tabletop that doesn't close in 9 months. Okay, so okay, so once I get my plywood in there, I'm going to slide that up against it and open it just slightly. Double check, make sure I'm on my line. And I think we're ready. Okay. Just double check the length of your screws on all of these applications here. You want to obviously have a screw that's long enough to give as much hold as possible, but you want to be really careful not to run screws straight through your tabletop. It's so easy to happen. So just double check and see what the relief is here on the bottom of your slide, and then take into consideration the thickness of your tabletop, and go with what you feel is best there. But obviously want something that will give you as much strength as possible. These screws that I'm using are actually 1 3/4 inches. Okay, take our plywood out, and we're done with table slides. Okay, so what I've done to determine the length of this leg is literally just laid all of this out, put my table leg up against this and marked it, and taken it to a saw and chopped it off. Okay, really simple. I put a bolt in the end of it. I don't know if you can see that there, and just a nut and washer. This bolt right here. I put one hole in the center of my bridge, and I'm just going to tighten that down. And I think we're ready to get this centered on our slide and screw it down on there. What you want is for these holes to hit the very center of this center rail here. We'll get a close-up here in just a minute of this slide, and you'll be able to see that we have to stay really close to the center. If we get off a little bit, we could get into the slide mechanism itself and actually cause some binding and, some problems there. So just be real, just double check yourself there. Okay, so you can see that you don't have a lot of space right here. So when you're putting these screws in, you want to be pretty close to being centered there. You don't have much wiggle room. Okay, there we have our 5th leg in place, and we're ready to open it up and slide our leaves in there and get the skirting done on those, and we're getting close to being done. Okay, so we're ready to put our skirting onto our leaves. I've cut those just a little bit shorter than the leaf. There again, just in case that shrinks a little bit. I'm going to center it left to right. And then after that, I'm going to go ahead and put on these skirting braces. And that just protects you, just in case, this were to get bumped real hard or something like that. Gives you a little bit more support right there, and makes sure that this table lasts a long time for you. Okay, Okay, so we've taken an Osborne Wood Products hard maple top, complete with the skirting and 5 legs actually, and put it all together for you. We've used Equalizer slides, okay, which we would use in this case since we have that 5th leg, and we've created a beautiful table that's ready to finish. We actually could have gotten a little bit more length out of these slides than what we did today, but yeah, we're well over 100 inches long here. Beautiful table, endless possibilities here at Osborne Wood Products.